Welcome back to another episode of Week in Review, where we'll be taking a look at the Nightrunner Advocacy skin, the CitizenCon Controversy, and more, so let's get started. Welcome back. So at number 8 we have the Crusader Mercury sale. This week sees the Crusader Mercury remain on sale. If you don't know about this cargo/data running ship, you can check out my dedicated video on it here. This week CIG revealed the Nightrunner Advocacy skin for all citizens who helped or hindered in tracking down the belligerent duck. You can find it in your hangar as the Watch the Skies tipline reward. At number 7 we have the CitizenCon Controversy. This week sees a fresh dose of controversy surrounding the streaming of CitizenCon. To put it briefly, you can read more on Spectrum if you'd like, CIG released a digital streaming pass with a selection of CitizenCon goodies for $20 for any citizen who wanted to watch live. This is similar to how the BlizzCon event is organised, and the idea is that the money would go to fund a third-party company to manage the stream professionally. The opening and closing keynotes would be streamed for everyone, with the individual sessions being exclusive, but all of the sessions would have been recorded and uploaded after the event to YouTube. This was very poorly communicated by CIG, with no consultation from the community, and led to rather a large backlash on Spectrum and Reddit. Chris Roberts responded, outlining the situation in a much clearer way, but by that time it was too late. The next day, Chris responded by rescinding the plan completely. The event will now be live streamed to everyone with an RSI account for free, with all shows from both stages being available. Citizens can still buy the $20 pass, now at a reduced $12 price, and receive the digital goodies, along with a 1-month subscription. I'd love to hear what you all think about this. Please leave me a comment down below letting me know your thoughts. At number 6 we have the roadmap update. Another Friday means another roadmap update, with a 2% increase in progress this week. It's not the most progress we've seen, but anything is good at this stage. Our biggest winners this week are Asteroid Mining at a whopping 36%, the Hurston Dynamics Attrition series at 14%, and improvements to manned and remote turrets on vehicles at 13%. Progress on Object Container Streaming's background tasks saw very minor progress, with only one new task being checked off, and the OCS task itself hasn't moved. The only task to lose progress was Transit Systems, losing 5% from last week. The tasks that currently have the least progress for release are the Cyclone AA and TR and No Fly Zones, which are the same as last week, having received no progress. 3.4 also seems to be beginning its journey into the development pipeline, with many of the ships beginning their development over the last 2 weeks, and one of ArcCorp's moons beginning its development entirely. That's all for the roadmap this week, with just over 5 weeks till we're expecting to see the release, alongside the planning for CitizenCon. CIG are pushing it close on this release. We know it's a big content patch with tons of vital features, so we may see devs starting to work overtime and less critical features being dropped in time for this release. At number 5 we have lore content. This week CIG brought us the final installment of the Knowledge of Good and Evil series, wrapping up this 4-part saga on the history of a street rat taken in by the sisters, and her story of self-discovery and personal triumph. It's a heartwarming tale, and I won't spoil it, but I'd strongly recommend that you check out all 4 parts of this fantastic saga. At number 4 we have Around the Verse. This week's ATV gives us a look at the updates and changes that have been worked on in the last week, with a particular emphasis on the new Cyclone variants due to release in 3.3. Further improvements continue to be implemented in the Scramble races, confining space races inside the asteroid belt of Yela, and focusing more on combat for the ground races. Asteroid mining is progressing also, with asteroid belts now being able to generate mineable resources of an appropriate type, value, etc. Lorville continues to be built out, with the huge city walls now being finalised, and many of the industrial assets being built out. The VFX team are working on the smoke and lighting for the city to make it feel like a living, breathing system with the industrial aesthetic. Water systems for planets and moons are also being worked on to allow designers to specify colours, intensities, etc. for oceans and beaches, and to begin to implement with the dynamic weather systems. The cyclone variants are beginning to be worked out, with a range of colours and styles being available. Work also begins on the lower deck of the 890 jump, with it currently being a large empty hangar ready for further work. Internal tools to map culling zones have been further developed to allow CIG to specify more dynamic culling zones, leading to better performance and less time spent developing for the artist. And that's all for progress updates this week. Things seem to be going well over at CIG, and it's nice to see these performance optimizations being worked on, even if this isn't the coveted object container streaming. At number 3, we have Reverse the Verse. This week's RTV features Jared and Todd Pappy, director for Star Citizen Live, in Foundry 42 Frankfurt to talk about progress and planned features for the upcoming releases. There's a meeting happening at CIG next week to determine the future of HABs, hangars, etc. Currently, it's believed that there will be a finite number of HABs, hangars, etc. on a planet, driving up the price as demand increases to mirror reality. 3.3 likely won't come with more mission types, but existing missions are being moved into a new modular system to allow CIG to make them more dynamic for changes, adding extra elements to the mission, etc. Hopefully this will make it easier to iterate in the future. Allowing players to share missions and contracts doesn't yet have a firm fixed date, but it could be as early as 3.4, though it's likely we'll see this sometime in 2019. Clovis Star Neely is a mix of lawful and unlawful in his faction, but most of the missions coming from mission givers directly will likely be less than lawful. Most of the legitimate missions will be posted through official job boards such as on the Moby-Glass. Long-range scanning in CIG's eyes is a tool that can scan across the universe through huge expanses. This will be similar to how the Hubble telescope works, with players sitting for long periods and analysing background data. The other type is the short-range scanners like we've seen already, which can actively scan and ping for other ships nearby, etc. These will be quite long-range, but not nearly as much as the long-range scanning tools. There's currently no plans to allow players to drop their own waypoints on foot, but it is something CIG will consider for the future. Scramble races will be a questionable legal activity, and CIG haven't 100% decided whether it be done outside of legal space, or if you'll have to sign a disclaimer making it okay in legal zones. Fuel gameplay will be rebalanced with the release of Hurston, as players will only be able to refuel quantum fuel at truck stops or from other players. It will be an interesting implementation, and will almost certainly change numerous times before it's released. It should be possible in the future to find a quiet corner of the verse where a citizen can settle down without seeing any other NPCs or players. It's not currently known when this will happen, but it should be before the final release. CIG are currently discussing how trading might work, allowing citizens to trade weapons, resources, etc. It's not currently finalised how this will work, but it'll likely work through the service beacon system. Jared confirmed that work on the Carrack has not yet begun, but he'll make it very clear when work does begin on this highly sought after ship. In the future, you'll be able to run a space station of your own, as was originally pitched as a stretch goal, but this hasn't been planned yet as many gameplay systems need to be added before this can realistically be thought about. Rewards for missions will be paid to the player who initiates them, and dividing of the profits will be up to that player. How this will work isn't set in stone, but you'll be responsible for paying the players who helped you. There's a range of space-based weather systems being worked on, such as solar flares and meteor storms. These will affect the way your ship behaves, nearby planets, etc. The repair and refuel process will take much longer when those mechanics are actually introduced. They're only quick now as CIG needed a quick Tier 0 implementation. Over time, CIG would like to run events that affect the gameplay in the verse, such as UEE fleets passing through star systems, wormholes collapsing, etc. It's still very early days as we haven't finished the mechanics yet, but it's certainly something they'd like to do. CIG have begun to consider command and control gameplay, allowing players to command fleets of ships from the helm of a capital ship. It's still too early to confirm anything, but you should be able to point out targets and have them broadcast to your fleet for attack. And finally, no-fly zones will present a warning when you get nearby or enter the zone. If you stay there, you'll eventually die. There will be flight paths between the no-fly zones eventually, and IFCS would guide you back onto the path if you stray out of it. And that's all for RTV this week. We got a great update on things happening in the verse, and we can begin to prepare for how things will work in the future. At number 2, we have the CitizenCon Updates. This week sees another round of CitizenCon tickets go on sale with a new ticket type available. Citizens may now bring their child, provided they are over the age of 13. These tickets cost just $55 and are labelled Junior Co-Pilot Ticket in the store. This is a change on previous years, which restricted children from attending completely. The schedule for the event has also been released and can be found on the RSI website. Will you be attending CitizenCon? What are you most excited to see? Let me know in the comments below. And finally, at number 1, we have the community overview. The community is hitting the low point of the cycle this week, with much speculation about what features will be dropped from this release, combined with the negative impact of the CitizenCon streaming situation. We're probably a couple of weeks away from the hype building for CitizenCon, so the community remain in speculation mode. And that's all from me for this week. Like if you liked it, get subscribed, and leave a comment letting me know what you're excited for in 3.3. I'll see you in next week's episode of Week in Review.